Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigating Activism by JSA. We're going to get started in just a minute, so we just want to make sure everyone has a chance to hop on. So just hold on for a minute or two and we'll get going. Thank you all for being here. Okay, so we're going to get started and hopefully anyone else that decides to join will join. So I'm going to pass it over to Dominic and Jenny.
All right. Hey, guys. I'm Dominic Beck. I'm the governor of Texas. I'm very excited to be on this webinar.
And I'm Jenny Wang, the Northeast governor.
All right.
Getzelman, and sorry, and
No,
I'm the
you're good. Sorry.
and Southeast Program Director. I just want to go over one quick thing before we get started, and then I'm going to really let Jenny and Dominic take the reins. You are all on GoToWebinar, which is great. The way that this operates is you are all on mute at the moment, so that way anything that's going on in the background we're not hearing it during the webinar. If you have a question, you can either click the little hand that's on the control panel, and I can unmute you and have you ask a question, or you can do the question mark, which can directly message me the question. And so those are the two options for you to ask any questions. We pretty much will open up opportunity for questions after every slide. But if it comes up at any point, just let us know and click that little hand or that question mark, and we will make sure that your question is answered. Thanks.
All right. So I'll just kind of go over the outline of what we have. We're going to talk about what is activism, give a brief context, our plans for the year. We're going to go over the midterm menu some of you might have heard about for our National Activism Initiative. We'll do a MyJSA tutorial to talk about how that integrates with activism this year, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. But like Tracy said, you can raise the electronic hands at any time. So get started.
Okay, so first we're going to go into a brief summary of what is activism, why is it important, and how should students get involved. So activism encompasses all the activities that JSAers do to really make a difference in our political world, and these can range from voter registration drives to fight apathy. And not only is it ultimately really beneficial for society and the world as a whole, there's also a lot of different ways that it can benefit your chapter. So first, it can really increase your brand in the community. So if you're holding activism events, these are great opportunities to reach out to local news stations, ask them, tell them about something great that JSA has been doing. Oh, like your chapter has been participating and helping people register to become voters. That's a great way to increase your brand and help people understand and recognize what JSA is in your community. Also, it can change the image of JSA and kind of show people and students that it's not just about debate. We also participate in a lot of great activism and community engagement pieces. And also, it's a really great way to keep your members engaged. So sometimes having one debate every week might be sort of dull for some members, and in order to really engage a different crowd. You could get the type of people that are more hands-on, really want to make an impact and do something. So it's also a really great tool to use to better your chapter meetings or engage your chapter members outside of school.
All right, so we have some pictures here of JSA Activism in action. And by the way, sorry if I have a little lag on my end. I'm in the south right now, and there's some pretty bad stormy weather. So on the left, we have a Hurricane Harvey Relief Day that my chapter did. It was a really cool event, very much kind of a hardcore community service thing. But for members who want stuff like that, you get a great way to make an impact in your community. Complete community service, maybe for their college resumes. Advertising that JSA does that type of work, shows different aspects of what our organization does, and it also broadens our appeal. But we do want to emphasize, JSA is a great place for people to have fun with politics. You don't always have to have serious debates. On the right, I have a picture of our State of the Union watch party last year. It was really fun, pretty simple to set up. Somebody hosted, had some pizza, and it was a great way for our chapter to connect and to make some fun memories outside of conventions. So if you guys are looking to spice up your year-long chapter experience, then activism in all its forms is a great way to do that. So.
I have a question to pose to everyone. I don't know if anyone wants to answer it. We have 10 people on the call, so and if you're interested in answering this, just you can type it in or raise a hand. But does anyone have any examples from their schools? And some of you might be brand new and may not have posted anything around activism, which is okay. But for anyone that's on here that is participating in JSA, does anyone have any examples of ways that they've offered this at their schools? Ooh. All right, I'm gonna unmute Zoe because she raised her hand. All right, Zoe, go ahead. You there? Zoe? Oop, okay. I see you, Zoe. Can you hear? I can't hear you. Could you maybe type it in? Oop, now you're on twice. Okay, let's try this one, Zoe. You there, Zoe?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Yay, okay. Hi,
So
I
Zoe,
just
where are
wanted
you
to
from?
I am from Texas.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, in the Houston area. Yeah, I was just going to say that I know in my chapter, which is like near downtown Houston, we have a speaker, because I've been doing a little bit of work with some political campaigns in the area, specifically one for Congress, and I know that we're having a guest speaker as one of the organizers for that campaign come to our chapter, and they're going to talk more about what we can do as high school students, even though a lot of us can't vote, to get involved and just to, find out what we can do to kind of create an impact in this election, even though the vast majority of us aren't going to be able to vote.
Great. That's such an awesome example. I think that's it's a great example of thinking about connections that you have as an individual that can help benefit your JSA chapter as a whole, and how those interests can be applicable across the board. And what a great way also to utilize what's happening right now and to be active in what is the due process, what election's all about. So that's a great example. Thank you so much, Zoe. I appreciate it. I'm going to mute you now.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide.
JSA Activism is split into basically 2 semesters, and so first, during our fall semester, we really want to focus on our midterm election activism. And as Dominic mentioned earlier, we really want to get out interest and recognition for our midterm menu, which is something new that we brought on this year. And we'll talk more about that later. And also in the spring, we really focus on Fight Apathy around February and on. And so this is, if you don't know what this is already, I'll just briefly mention it. Fight Apathy, we basically hand out stickers to all of our chapters at no cost, and we have our chapters basically engage their schools and their communities in writing something that they believe in on their sticker, and really having conversations about these things that they believe in, things that they really care about, so that we really want to provide that initial spark to the conversation so that people will take action as a result of that. And so in between the fall and the spring semester, we highly encourage all of our chapters to participate in their own chapter-wide initiatives. So volunteering at local charities and really just trying to be a force for good in your community and making a difference. So it seems like Dom's call might have dropped off a bit. So first, I just really want to touch on our midterm menu. So this is the next few slides that we have. Our midterm menu, this is our fall activism initiative, and it's from the national level, and we want all of our chapters to be participating in it, and we really want to teach you guys how to use it and some of the great activism initiatives that we have planned out for the year. Okay, so first, this is the general list of projects that we have. We have voter registration drives, volunteering at the polls, voter education, debates and thought talks, hosting debate watch parties, and the candidate town hall meetings. And we want all of our chapters to really pick 2 projects, 2 or more, but at a minimum, we'd really like you to participate in 2 and do them before the midterm. So it's really engaging the students in the midterms before they happen, so that people are really aware of what's going on and understand how important 2018 is for us as students and moving forward as people who are voters and going to be living in this society.
So I'm just going to pull up real quickly this link. There's someone just asked me if there's a shorter link for the guide. There 100% is. So we will follow up with an email to you all with more information. So do not worry that's not the exact link. And Jenny and Dom are going to go through some of these pieces a little bit more in depth. But I just wanted you all to be able to take a gander of what the guide looks like. And we're going to go through this this is all full detail. And it just it maps out all the different pieces as to what you could be doing to be engaged in our midterm menu. And I'm filtering through this fast because we are going to be going through each one of these in more depth. But I just wanted you to see what it looked like. Yeah, there totally is a shortened link. Do not worry. This is from we created this webinar last week, so we have an updated link and all that. So we just wanted you to see what this looked like. And now, oops, sorry. We'll go here.
Okay, so first on our list, we have ballot education. And so these graphics are really short, simple details. If you read on to the full midterm menu guide, which Tracy said she'll be sending out an email with a shortened link later, that will give you a lot of detail and a lot of links and resources to use. But for now, we'll just be looking at these graphics. So for yourself, it's really important that you're an informed activist. And using the resources in the guide, you can really learn about your local, your state, and your national elections. So even if you aren't old enough to vote, anyone can really start learning about the midterms, because being educated about them is really important, and getting involved in the political process early really gives you a head start. And some of the great resources that we have for you guys are Ballotpedia, which provides really specific information about your area and your towns and how what the laws are in those areas, and also what specific ballots and candidates are in your town. So also these articles are all fact checked so that we're confident that this information is reliable. And also Vote 411 provides a lot of resources on local candidates, so it'll allow you to get a really good idea of what their platforms are and who they are as people. And so for your chapter, the best thing you could do is really create a chapter ballot education guide that provides, short blurbs about some of the local and state candidates that are running, and then summarizing really important topics and hot-button issues for your region's midterms. And releasing this guide about a month before your state's election, so getting it out in early October would be really important so that your chapter is understanding who the candidates are, and if you've printed out enough, handing them out to students at your school, letting them get a better idea, really raising political awareness in your schools. Second, we also have mock elections. So this would be a really interesting and fun idea that engages a lot of people in your school, not just your club. So, but at the same time, you could also have a mock election on the chapter level. But if you were to speak with administration, we could definitely help you with this. Talking to your administration and figuring out if you can host one for your entire school to participate in. That would be really interesting. So basically, mock elections mimic real elections, and you have two people that are representing each candidate and basically mimicking the candidate and their platforms and all their issues, and having a debate between them and sort of showing people, these are what the candidates are like. This is what they'll be doing. This is a debate they're having, and then allowing students to vote afterwards on who did better, who really blew you away, and which candidate is likely to win the election. So these are really cool ways that you can get involved with your school.
All right, so the next thing we can talk about is voter registration and candidate forums. So number 3 is probably the one of the most important, I think, activism projects that you can accomplish in your own school. There are a lot of people who are going to be turning 18 or have already turned 18 in your high schools that don't necessarily know the procedure for voting yet, as this will be their first chance at doing so, and need some guidance in terms of the voter registration process that you guys can help with. So it depends from state to state how it works, and that's why the first step to take is to research. So for instance, Texas doesn't actually have online voter registration. It's all a paper system, and you have to mail it to the county registrar's office or meet with somebody who is officially certified. It's a really complicated process. So if your state is something like that, then you're going to have to do some research and understand the logistics of registering to vote. If your state's a little more simpler, it might be easier. You might need laptops. Otherwise, you might need to contact organizations who are able to help with voter registration. In Texas, for instance, we have Battlegrounds Texas, which has people who are certified. But in your state, you have similar organizations like Rock the Vote, who are more than happy to help with organizations like ours to try to get voter registration done. You can do it at a park. You can do it at your own school. The important thing is to plan ahead. So make sure you're organized, make sure you have the necessary resources. I would say create a list, walk yourself through the day. Are you going to have snacks, water? Make sure you have pens, paper, something hard to write on. Make sure people have a pitch as to why, when telling people why they should register to vote. It's very important that you are on top of things so that if plans change, if things don't go exactly how you think they are, that you can adapt pretty easily. If you're going to have it at your school, be sure your school's okay with it. Even more so, usually schools are, but try to see if you can get your school support. A lot of history teachers, government teachers are more than happy to give extra credit to supply volunteers or just to encourage their students over morning announcements or something like that to go and register to vote. And doing stuff like that, getting your school support, can greatly increase the amount of people you're going to be able to register to vote. Another important thing to add is to keep it nonpartisan. Make sure that people are emphasizing that voter registration isn't something that they're encouraging for Republicans or Democrats or independents, but that they're encouraging for everyone, regardless of their political leanings. So voter registration, definitely something to look into, an incredibly important part of the democratic process. Another thing to do, and for some schools this might be a bit of a challenge, but it might be easier than you think. Having a candidate forum is a great way to get people involved with politics by having by being able to put a face to a name. You know, some of these candidates seem impersonal when they're on television or with their campaign ads, but inviting them to your school, having them interact with people can get people fired up about politics and get them to care about political issues that they might not otherwise. So definitely look into getting candidates, email them, talk to their representative at their office or on their campaign. I would note that a lot of, if you live, so again, using Texas as an example, it's a pretty deeply red state, especially my county. So the opposition candidate for my representative, Kevin Brady, is more than happy to come to schools because he doesn't get a lot of attention otherwise. So looking for candidates like that is a great way to get people to come to these candidate forums. And if their opponents at a forum, usually the person who's running against them will be motivated to come as well. Make sure you have, or at least attempt to have, a nonpartisan spin to it. Don't try to be biased regardless of your political leanings. I know we're all passionate about politics, but it's important to set an example of respectful dialogue and of understanding across both sides of the aisle. It's also, the last thing is to publicize. Make sure that you're reaching out to people who would want to go to candidate forums. Make sure you're doing that in an effective way. Posters around your school, Facebook posts, absolutely make sure you are generating some buzz. Have food is always a good one. And make it an event. People expect a certain level of professionalism when they're dealing with candidates and candidate forums. So make sure the JSA lives up to that and represent us well. So that's kind of what I have for those two.
Great. We have a question.
Great.
So looking for candidates at all levels, even those running for mayor, city council, and school board, would be interesting for your school and community members. So this is just an antidote to add in, to think about these candidates in different ways, shapes, and forms, and to make sure that you're thinking about the local, you know, all the different levels of the different officials that could, the different elected officials and people that could be coming into position. And think about what could be interesting for your school. And you know, what would your school be interested in, what your community be interested in, and what would they be responding to? So that's a really good antidote. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, because a lot of those smaller elections are even more willing than some of the more high profile candidates to come to your school because they want to talk to people who want to talk with them.
Exactly, and thank you, Elizabeth, for that. And then for Aditi, she also mentioned that National Voter Registration Day is 9/25. So thank you for that. I appreciate you mentioning that, and that's something everyone should keep in mind. It's only a couple weeks away, and so it's that's a great date to select if you can make it happen in those 2 weeks to host a voter registration drive. So thank you for that addition, Aditi. All right, I'll go to the next slide.
So next we have poll working and campaign work. And poll working I find really interesting because it's something that a lot of people don't really know that they can do. So if you're, depending on what state you're from, you can become a poll worker like at age 16. Especially in my state, I'm from Connecticut, so at 16 you can become a poll worker and actually get paid to do work. And oftentimes poll workers get paid around $100 to $200 for their time as a poll worker for the whole day, which is really great money if that's something that people in your chapter might be motivated by. So this is a 4-step process. So first, determine your eligibility. So finding out if your state allows students and people under the age of 18 to be poll workers. There's a link to that on the midterm menu guide, which we'll be sending out later, to contacting local officials. So at usa.gov, you can enter your zip code and basically find your local election office. And either on their website or through a phone number, you can learn how to apply to become a poll worker. A lot of times, some history teachers or government teachers might have an idea of what the requirements are, or they might know someone who works at the office that might be able to help you out. 3, training. So once you're accepted, poll workers will have to go through a short period of training that's quick and simple. It's not too difficult. It'll really just get you prepared for election day, and overall, it's not a very time-consuming process. It's quite easy to become a poll worker, so we highly recommend chapters participate in this and really consider poll working or having a couple members, some of the older juniors or seniors, participating in this on election day. And so for the 4th step, on election day, you'll basically be expected to set up polls, help voters, and assist in the closing. So poll working, really interesting. Definitely, if you have any questions, ask about it. It's definitely something newer that a lot of people wouldn't know about. So if you read through the guide, it gives you really helpful steps and really useful links and resources. For number 6, we have campaign work. And this is something that if you're involved in some of the more partisan groups like Young Republicans or Young Democrats, you might have participated in before, and a lot of your JSA members might also be involved with campaigns and other organizations that are involved in that, but I'll just quickly go through what a volunteer basically does. So campaign volunteer work really varies, but a lot of tasks that most people, especially high school students, are expected to or tend to help do are speak to voters by canvassing, so going door to door and knocking and really talking about a specific candidate, categorizing data into spreadsheets, volunteering at candidate tables during events. So if maybe your town has a local fall festival or something, you might have a booth where you campaign for a specific representative or candidate running. Also phone banking, that's a very common one. A lot of times you'll be sitting in your town's Democratic or Republican town committee, and you'll be phone banking and calling a lot of people. And this can actually be really interesting, and it's a really great opportunity to develop your speaking skills as well, because learning how to talk to people on the phone is really important. And if you can tell your chapter members that, explain that this is a really good opportunity to put yourself out there and get some experience just kind of understanding how the political process works. This is definitely the greatest way to get that across. And so helping out in campaigns can be as easy as really emailing the local candidate. You could easily find their contact information, their phone number, their campaign email addresses online or on your local websites. A lot of candidates are really open to volunteers. They don't really, it's tough to get money and funding to put out a campaign, and obviously they'll take as much help as they can, and they definitely want you to get involved in it. And so really taking the first step to contact them is the hardest part. It's really quite simple. Campaign work is really fun, really interesting and engaging, and it's really not all that time consuming. It really is, the amount of time it takes is how much you're willing to put towards it. So since you are a volunteer, there aren't strict time requirements, so it's based on what you can do. So that means you might end up spending just an hour a day phone banking, or maybe once a week, or attending occasional events for as long as you can stay. Maybe that's 1 hour, maybe that's 3 hours, maybe that's the whole day, coming in every other week to help input data, or really anything. So as long as you're communicating, volunteering is totally up to you, and it gives you control, unlike some jobs or work might do. So this is a really great opportunity. I highly encourage your chapters to consider this, and also if you think it's going to be difficult to do so, contacting some of the other clubs in your school that might be interested in partnering with JSA. But just remember that JSA is a bipartisan organization, so if you are going to be engaging in campaign work, you're working with both sides of the aisle. It's not just the Democrats, it's not just the Republicans. You really want members participating on both sides of the political spectrum. Otherwise, We're not really following JSA's fundamental values, and we really want to keep it bipartisan and making sure that everyone's getting a better experience and gaining a better education, political-wise, but also staying true to JSA's nonpartisan nature.
Great. Thanks so much, Jenny. We did have a question come in from Aditi whose internet shut off, but one question she had, and I don't know if Dom and Jenny can answer this, and if not, I can help out. But if they would have to register as a third-party voter to be a poll worker, or does it depend on the state?
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dom.
Go ahead.
Well, ultimately, it is dependent on the state. You don't need to be registered as, wait, could you repeat the question?
Oh, I just trashed it. It was if they have to register as a third party to do the poll, or if it depends on the state. Like when registering to do the poll work, how do you register? I'm assuming the question.
Okay, so there's no, I can speak for my state. I'm not completely certain about all 50, but for us, it was really just contacting your local official, telling them that you're interested. You don't need to be registered with any party. It doesn't matter. You're just on that day, you're not allowed to wear anything associated with either side, as long as you're just like wearing normal clothes and not showing any political leaning like while you're working. There's no doesn't matter what party you're registered to. It's really just I would check your local office to see what the age requirements are. Like that's like the only hindrance I can think of. But in general, they're really accepting. Like I know a lot of people from my school that did poll working were either really involved in politics or not involved at all, and they all just went for the day and got paid at the end.
Dom, do you have anything to add?
No, other than I think in terms of it being a partisan thing. The third party. No, it definitely depends on your state. For me, I just check a box when I register to vote, and I believe they contact me. So yeah, as with a lot of this stuff, it depends on the state, which is unfortunate, but definitely if you're involved with your state activism department, then they'll be able to help you out. Or if you are in the activism department, you'll be helping people out. So definitely look into that. Make sure you do your research, and it's available online pretty easily. So yep, that's all I have to add.
Great, thanks. Okay, I'll go to the next slide.
All right, so we have on our midterm menu, and I'll kind of finish up with these, I think. We have some ones for that are a little less intensive, especially for smaller chapters. This is a great idea to get people within your chapter and maybe a small group outside of your chapter involved without having to do excessive amounts of planning or a ton of legwork with other organizations. So we have, of course, mock candidate debates. So each person represents a candidate. For my state, if somebody wanted to represent Beto and somebody wanted to represent Ted Cruz, they would have a mock debate and kind of treat it like an actual candidate forum. It's a really cool way. It's funny, but it's also can be really informative and a great exercise in representing issues well. There's also ballot-specific debates. So one that we had last year was lowering the voting age to 16 was an idea that was brought up. Having that debate is especially interesting with high schoolers, I found. But then thought talks are great as well. Discussing the candidates even can have some great discussions. And then this one I think is really interesting, having a campaign video analysis. So talking about what the videos represent about the political process and about each candidate, I think is a fantastic way to get discussions started about politics. But especially if you're not sure if you want to commit to two of those intensive activities, those ones are really great just to get people involved in talking about it. We also election watch parties, similar to what I was talking about with the State of the Union watch party. Have somebody host it at your home, or if you can have it at your school. Both are great, depending on the scale of what you want it to be. Make sure you have snacks. That's actually a really important factor. Make sure you publicize it well, get people having fun, have a bingo game maybe. There's some templates online, and be really creative about it. It is a party though, so make sure it's not too partisan or too serious. That can turn a lot of people off to JSA. if they're going for the first time. The last thing I want to talk about is getting people to go to town hall meetings or running them yourselves. So candidates have town halls all over your state if they're campaigning, or in your local, for local elections, like sheriff will have them to get the word out and to have an open discussion with the people they represent or hope to represent. So contacting local officials and hosting one at your school is a great way for people to interact with candidates, especially high schoolers that wouldn't otherwise be going to maybe town halls or at libraries and stuff like that. So that's also one a little more low key than some of the other ones, and a great opportunities for JSAers to get involved. So yeah, any questions about that, about those?
I'd love to throw out there too, if anyone, you can just raise your hand if you feel like you're going to actually do this, or you can also, I can unmute you and you can answer. If anyone feels really excited about one specific midterm menu item and that what they're hoping to actually do with that and implement it at their school. I don't know if anyone was really excited about it or had an example. Oh, great. We got Aditi. I'm going to unmute you. Hi, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good. Great to meet you.
All right, you too.
right,
I emailed you earlier, actually. I'm planning on doing a voter registration drive for a couple of days. It's going to be September 25th and the 26th at my school. We just got it approved today, actually. And I'm also planning on doing a voter registration drive at our regional library so that we can reach, the community, not just our school.
That's awesome.
Great work. Thanks for sharing.
Do you have any advice to offer people in getting stuff like that approved and getting organized?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say the first step is contacting your supervisor of elections, because I'm from Florida. So we have specific forms that we have to fill out in order to be able to register people to vote. So like we said before, it depends on where you're from. So definitely figure out those rules. If you want to do it at your school, then definitely get your administration support as well. We're also teaming up with DoSomething.org. They actually sent us pins that say, I registered to vote, and they gave us a bunch of banners and posters, so that can help with advertisement too when the day does come.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on that. My school's we're working on our voter registration right now, actually. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hey. I can't really hear anything right now, but can you guys hear me?
I can.
Okay. Okay, great. So, in my school, clubs, we've got club time, but clubs don't really start up for another like 2 weeks, right? So, but I want to do a voter registration drive sometime soon. I'm not sure, like, should I try to get my fellow officers to get something for National Voter Registration Day, or should I wait a little longer?
Well, my advice would be considering that that elections and voter registration has such a tight time frame, I would encourage your officers to get involved now. The earlier, the better, especially with kind of slow moving stuff with school administration. Even if clubs aren't starting up yet, I've found that getting ahead of the game and getting JSA's name out there is awesome. especially for something like ballot education and voter registration. School administrations are, I've found, a little more, a little less hesitant than with other activities. So I would say start planning now and start getting it organized.
And also, if it's difficult at your school, especially without clubs starting up so soon, you could always reach out to other local organizations. So in my town, the League of Women Voters is really in charge of voter registration. So reaching out to them and asking if maybe JSA could co-host or co-sponsor the voter registration drive would also be a really good plan if your administration doesn't seem to be working as well.
And Aditi just typed in this note of advice that the date to be registered by is October 9th. So just because the date 25th, September 25th is the date of national, like getting registered to vote, you still have a little time in between then and what the deadline is. And I apologize before I was muted and I didn't realize it. So that's why no one could hear me. Classic mistake. So great. So thank you so much, Malu. I'm going to, did I pronounce that correctly?
No, but it's okay.
How do I say it?
Malu.
Malu. And Malu, where are you from?
Columbia, but that's just a nickname.
Okay. And what school do you go to?
Inglemoor. We're a really new chapter. This is our second year.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the webinar and hopefully we're able to help you get things going and you're able to host something between now and midterms. I'm going to mute you now and thank you again. And then Gloria has been patiently waiting. Hey, Gloria.
Hi, I
Can
just
you just
really
say
have
where you're from and what high school you go to?
I'm from Berwyn, Illinois, and so we're really close to Chicago, Illinois, and I'm from Warren West, and we are from the Midwest.
Great.
And basically, like one of my questions is, like since you guys have done like a lot of voter registration drives, what is a way you think that like you would help present yourself to like the administration in order to help like all your projects come through?
Well, in terms of working with administration, working ahead is key, making sure that you're talking to them months in advance or really just as much time as you can is good, especially if they're hesitant. It gives you a little more time to, I don't know if negotiate's the right word, but maybe negotiate. So yeah, that's kind of my general advice. I don't, every administration's different. Definitely talk to your teacher advisor because they will have a better idea of how to deal with them.
Yeah, and I also would recommend too, any materials that you have to show that this is an established organization that you're working with, and how seriously we take this, and looping in your program director. So, getting in touch with Jen Cena and and perhaps having her in on any conversations and the like. I think that the more material and information you can provide, the more professional you look, and just making sure you're preparing for that meeting, knowing what you're looking for from administration, what the asks are, maybe even having a little presentation that you're going to give them. I mean, anything to show how seriously you're taking it and how much you value their time and the fact that they are taking time out of their day to spend with you to discuss this. Make sure that they know you understand that and that you're trying to be really clear and to the point as to what you're looking for and how you're hoping, what you're hoping to get out of that said meeting. And then also, how this, also making sure they understand the return on the investment, right? So by them investing and helping you with this, what it's going to do for the community and those at large and what that looks like.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, I'm gonna mute you.
Okay.
All right, so going to the next slide. I think this is me. Okay, so the next piece of all this is, so we gave you all these different examples of how to administer activism within your chapters. Now, how do we know that that's happening? What are we doing to make sure that we're capturing all the amazing work that you're doing? We're able to promote it, and we're also able to track it for your chapter as a whole. So we've been able, we've luckily this year we've been able to, whoa, what happened? Hold on. Sorry about that, something funky happened. So luckily this year we've implemented a new way for us to log all the work that you're doing through activism and also as a chapter in general through your My JSA account. So traditionally, and some of you that have participated in JSA before, you would have received an email from our director of activism after the fall, checking in and asking you to report back as to the activities that you hosted throughout the fall initiative. And we would kind of send an email and then you'd fill in a document and then we report that back. And what we found was it was really challenging to get that information in a timely manner, for it to be accurate, for us to really in real time capture what has been happening. So we thought that there is a missed opportunity here to be capturing this information. And so we really want to utilize My JSA. So for those of you that aren't that are newer, and I'm not going to go too heavy into this because we will have like a whole My JSA webinar, but My JSA is our portal that we use for all of our chapter members to register and to be essentially inputted into our database. And it's how you register for conventions, and it's how you log all your members, and you mark your chapter president as chapter president, and your teacher advisor is marked as a teacher advisor. And it's how we pull all of our information on your chapters, and it's how we pull in information how to communicate with your chapters, and it's how we pull all of our information around registration for conventions. So we thought, let's use this portal in a better, more effective way outside of just for chapter registration for conventions. So what we're pushing for this year, and as Jenny and Dom mentioned, we're hoping that everyone does at least 2 of the items on the midterm menu. Hopefully you do more than that. And what we want you to do is we want you to be reporting and logging that this is happening. So your question, I know you're all sitting there with your finger on your chin wondering, how do we do this? So I'm going to show you. So if everyone hopefully can see my screen, and I think I zoomed in, and if people can't see very well, let me know, but I tried to zoom in. So this is the JSA homepage. So this is when you go to the JSA, myjsa.force.com, and you log in. This is what you get to for your homepage. So for chapter presidents and teacher advisors, you're going to have ability to be logging things that you're doing. And this is really exciting because it can be the gamut. It can be your activism initiatives and also can be chapter meetings. So this is your JSA homepage. And so up here where I'm you see it selected, we have my chapter, my events, my personal data. So my chapters is what we're going to be selecting. My events is usually where your chapter convention registration is happening. So for my chapter, if I click this gives all your chapter details. Now, the person I'm logged into now is the chapter president of Barron Collier, which is one of my high schools in the Southeast. And essentially, chapter details has all the different people that are either recorded as members or non-members. It hasn't been updated in your chapter. And so there's these buttons here is to declare as a member, mark as graduated, and this is the hot button right now. This is chapter activity. So this is something you're going to collect to log anything that's happening with activism. So we click that, and this is again only accessible for chapter presidents and for teacher advisors to log. So it'll auto-populate your name based off of where you're, whoever you are, and you will input your high school, which is mandatory, and all this information is mandatory. And then you'll select your chapter position. So it'll either be chapter president or teacher advisor. Most likely, I don't know why member's on there because if you're a member, you will not be able to register this. And then the type of event. So these are the different events that you can be logging. So it'll be activism project, a chapter conference. This is if you're hosting a chapter con. You can log all your chapter meetings. You can, and this is something that data we can pull for you. If you log every chapter meeting that you have, we can go into our database, pull a report for chapter meetings, and you can see exactly how many chapter meetings you had, exactly who attended, how many people attended, and what that looked like over the trajectory of the year. Our whole goal of this is to really be capturing what's happening on the chapter level and be able to pull real data from that. And there's debate watch party. This is you're going to have the capability for new chapters to upload your constitutions. If you have a guest speaker at your event, at your school-wide event, staff visit, say I come pop by and say, hey, how's it going? And I visit. Voter registration drive or other. So voter registration drive and debate watch party are going to be two specific ones that we're talking about for the midterm menu. And then everything else will fall under activism projects. So if you're doing polling, if you're doing anything else, you're doing one of the candidate forums, those different menus on the item, they're going to fall under activism projects. So you're going to select one of those. I'm just doing this, I'm not going to actually log it. You select the date of the event, which is pretty self-explanatory, the length, so however long it was, the number of students that attended, number of community members that attended, so that would be for a candidates forum or any of those people in attendance that are not from your school. And then it's really important you write a description of the activity. This is content that's going to be pulled directly in for us, and so we can see what's happening and exactly what was going on. If the event had a web page on Facebook or anywhere, make sure you link it. And then if you took pictures at the event, upload a picture. And that's a great way for us. We'll get reports on this and we can, send it directly to our communications team and get it up on our website and up on our Instagram and all those different social media platforms. So it's really important that if you're hosting any of these events that you are logging it in real time on your chapter activity page. Again, just so everyone knows, if you go from JSA home, you're going to click to my chapter and it's going to be the chapter activity button. And then you're going to fill that all in. And we do have a question. So for the chapter position that says member, it would just be a member of your JSA chapter. But I would just ignore this because you will not have access to log this information unless you're a chapter president or a teacher advisor. This little icon will not even show up if you're a member. So that's my whole piece on this. It's really important that you're all logging. It's the reason that it's important is so that we can show at the end of the midterm elections, what our students did to be engaged in this process. And also it alleviates a lot of the back and forth that tends to happen between directors of activism and our national director of activism. And it really also gives an opportunity for you to have a place to be inputting what you're doing and for us to be able to pull that and for you to see. And what's great about it is for this year, yes, but also 4 years down the road, whoever is your successor and leadership at your chapters, we can pull this information and show them, yeah, in 2018, you hosted 4 different midterm menu activism events around the midterms. And the following year, you did 2 or 3, and then it lagged off again in 2020. And that's such good information for us as an organization to know, but it's also really great information for student leadership to know as well, because it tells us who inputted the data and all those things. So I'm really excited about this because I think it's going to be a great tool for you all to keep track of everything that's happening within your chapter. And I just really encourage you to be using it. And if you have any questions and you go to try it and it's not working, just shoot me an email, shoot Jenny or Dom. I'm probably the easiest person to reach for this because I'm going to be able to go on the back end and help you out. But we really wanted to show you, okay, so these are all the things. How do you tell us it's happening? This is how you tell us it's happening. All right, and that's it. That's all that we have for you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, we have one question. We have a couple questions. Great. So we're going to start with, I'm going to say the name wrong again, Malu. Did I say it right this time? No?
Yeah, you did.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I've rarely used my JSA. I don't know much about it. By member doesn't mean like member of my JSA, like someone with a account, or like a member of JSA in general.
Yes, and it's a member of JSA in general. But I would ignore that. I just ignore that at all because the only people that are going to be logging the information are going to be chapter presidents or teacher advisors.
Okay.
So you don't even I'm going to make sure that actually gets removed so it doesn't confuse anyone. And we will be hosting a how to use my JSA webinar too. So we'll make sure that everyone that's on this webinar gets notified on that as well. Because I know that it can get confusing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we have a question from Gloria, and Gloria asks, what are your favorite activisms that you have done? I like using activisms as an adjective.
That is a tough question.
I think mine was the State of the Union watch party last year because it was just such a it was a really fun thing. But in terms of most impactful, it's definitely the junior state salute. My school last year in my chapter we organized. I don't know if you guys remember the National Activism Project last year, but it was the letter writing campaign to veterans, and I think the national goal was something like 4,000. And with the help of my school administration, we got 900 written. Now, we originally had like 1,100, but we had to edit out like 200 because high schoolers are not as sensitive to the topic as you would hope. But it was a really cool thing to do, and I definitely, seeing all the stacks and stacks, it was clear the impact that it was going to make. So that's the highlights that first come to mind.
So for me, this is tough. I'd have to choose between two. So I think I'll go with this great debate thing that we did at my chapter. So the NAACP actually hosted a really interesting debate between Howard University and Harvard University. And our chapter was able to attend this debate in Bridgeport, in a city in Connecticut. And we got to hear both sides debate about really hot button issues. And it was a really great opportunity because obviously the organization is really involved in social issues, and we really got to have a better idea of like what they were basically trying to get across to us and as students, as it was like a completely like student centered event where we really got to hear about stuff that these students cared about, these college students. But then also a really interesting thing that we did we basically partnered up with a local club called DCI, which is Distressed Children International, and JSA members participated in an international food festival where we all sat in booths and got to sample different foods from like across the globe, and it was all to raise awareness of a lot of kids that are actually orphans living in Tibet, Nicaragua, and all across the country and all across the globe, basically. And it was really interesting because it was like live entertainment. We had to try all these different foods, and we also really got to raise awareness and support people in these kids in this DCI orphanage.
Thank you. That's super helpful, and I'm sure as you all participate in your different activist initiatives that you'll have things to add. So we have a couple questions, and I am going to 100% butcher this name, and I apologize. Satiria Soteria, potentially. I'm trying. So the first question was, will this presentation be available? When I email you all tomorrow, or perhaps right after this webinar, I will include this as a attachment, so you will have access to it, so do not worry. And then the other question that was asked was, can you repeat the short-term activism activities for chapters? So I think this is asking about the things that happen in between fall initiatives and our spring initiative.
The short term, I thought I was thinking it would mean the small ones.
Oh,
yeah, the lecture 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. Well, off the top of my head, there's the debates for mock candidates, like basically dressing up or acting out the candidates, or the ballot specific debates, and then the educational thought talk, and the what's the last one? I'm forgetting. Oh, and the campaign ad watch party, or watch analysis. Personally, I'm excited. I think I'll bring that to my meetings, the campaign video analysis, for something new. But definitely, I don't know how y'all's meeting structures work, but for an hour or 30-minute long meeting, doing these activities are a great way to get people active with midterms without organizing a huge function. So.
And also, our National Director of Debate, if you guys are having difficulty creating debates, she actually created a whole bank of possible debates that you guys can have in your meeting. So they're all related to the elections. You don't have to try to research your own. She basically created a list for all of you guys to choose from if you decide to have an election focused debate at your chapter meeting.
Great. I think those are all the questions. I want to thank Jenny and Dom for leading this, and I want to thank all of the attendees for asking really great questions and being engaged, and hopefully you feel like you have the resources and tools you need to be really successful in engaging in our midterm menu. And look out for an email from me either tonight or tomorrow, just following up. And I don't know if you all would like my email. I can shout it out right now, but you also get an email from me, so you don't really have to worry about it. But my email is tgetselman@jsa.org. And Jenny and Dom, do you want to give your contact info in case people want to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. My email is dbeck@jsa.org. My phone number is 936-827-3545. Yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. And Tracy, will that be on the email, our contacts?
Yeah, I'll CC you guys on it, and then I'll make sure to put the contact information. And I am going to send it tonight because then I just don't have to worry about it tomorrow.
And my email is jwang@jsa.org, and my phone number is 203-558-7315.
Well, thank you again all for being here, and have a great rest of your night and a good rest of your weekend. If any of you are in the path of Hurricane Florence, please stay safe and get supplies. And that's just the East Coast side. So we're supposed to get a little weather here in DC and nothing too crazy. But yeah, so everyone stay safe and have a good rest of your week. And good luck with your JSA school year.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Tracy, for being a great host.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome. Good night.
Bye.